So one of the things that strikes me is that I've been in this space of really digging deeper into spirituality and intuition and intuitive, and that brings you down a path of a different path of the way in which highly sensitive, because that's how I see a lot of these students as well, or these children as well, as highly sensitive, that
Mm-hmm.
can really tap into energy, and they are so sensitive that they are really affected by energy, and sometimes by negative energy or dense energy, or and there's a reaction, and they don't even are not even aware of how and why they're reacting the way that they are. And so what I have noticed is that a lot of these children are highly intuitive as well, which means they are getting information, they are learning using a different path, a different method. And this is a society that says, oh, that's woo woo, that's but that is another way that they are receiving information. That is another way that they are learning, through movement, through sound, through connections, through touch. And some, no touch, so it just, again, is these all of these various ways of knowing that we don't pay attention to, because society says, the system that was built says, okay, here's the classroom, here's the structure, everyone sit with your hands folded, everyone does what the teacher says, even though the teacher might be an asshole, even though the teacher may be causing harm, even though the teacher, you know what I'm saying, but do what you're told, be quiet, stand in a straight line, and so that when we talk about the system, because we have to name the system that
Mm-hmm.
was created, that does not celebrate the diversity in the ways that we learn and the ways that we process. So can you talk a little bit about that systemic harm and how our children have been pathologized as behavioral issues, and kind of what you have started as an educator? So even, taking aside your head as mom, as an educator, what have you seen on the front lines?
So it's funny you said it like they're highly intuitive. So this is a true thing. One of the gifts and also curse about being a neurodivergent is we kind of joke about how we can read the room. Is that when you can walk into the room, you can read the energy, you feel the energy, and it's a gift and a curse. Because when you feel the energy, it's like you already know if it's a trusted situation, if it's not a trusted situation. And our children are like that. As you become an adult, you kind of learn your way to navigate it through that type of lens. But when our children are in those situations, they know when they're overstimulated, they don't know how to react to those things. So they're high energy, they're high functioning beings. They can read. I always say that they're superheroes. I look at them as like they're very highly intuitive and superheroes. In fact, it's a theory called what they talk about the neurodivergent brain. They say that a long time ago they call it the hunter and gatherer brain. So different time period before the modern society and before the agriculture world, that the neurodivergent brain was, especially someone like who has ADHD, their brain was highly functional because they can function in basic chaos. That our kids function great in chaos. I know with me, I function in high chaos. That I need high movement, high, movement all over the place. That if it's stationary, that I can't function that way. That we need routine, but at the same time, we function a lot better with, I want to say chaos, but we kind of struggle with chaos. We function better with chaos. We need that kind of loud sense. And when our children are like that too, where our children, they can feel senses and they're highly functioning, highly energetic beings. And what our system does is our system kind of sets up that you have to fit into this cookie cutter. And if you don't fit into this cookie cutter, then you're not a well productive citizen. That if we look at how our and I watched this video. I know I'm kind of rambling, but I
No,
watched the
no, this
video
is great.
about this guy, and he was talking about how what ADHD and kind of autism is, that we live in a capitalist society.
Mhm.
And one thing about capitalist society is that your level of, you know, success and your level of, you know, being a highly functioning citizen is your as how well you can produce, how much you can produce, how well you can function, how much you can produce and work for others.
Mhm.
And when you're unable to do that, then you're labeled as something is wrong with you. You're not functioning.
Mhm.
And this is where our society kind of dysfunctions and this really does our children a disservice. There's a theory called the dissert theory that we allow ableism, that our school systems are built around Eurocentric abled bodies, that they don't include disabled children, what they classify as disabled children, or different. I don't like to classify disabled children. I like to say different intelligence. That we have different intelligent beings. They don't classify those. That if you're not, you don't fit into this society, you can't function, or you can't produce the work that they want you to produce. That if you go in a classroom and you can't get straight A's, or you can't sit down for 8 hours, which is absurd to have kids sit in the classroom for 8 hours to do
Mhm.
worksheets, and you have to pass these standardized tests. And if you can't do that, then you're not productive in our society.
Mhm.
And it's even worse when you're a black child and when you're a black student, that you not only are you have this, you know, neurological differences, but now you're black, and so you're double labeled.
Mhm.
And so for our children, they get, when they're put into these schools, they're ostracized, where our sons and are labeled as behavior problems. Our daughters are labeled as, you know, daydreamers, or they're labeled as not being successful, or they won't don't have any futures, and there's no support for our kids.
Mhm.
And the way our system sets it up, they set it up for, if you, like I said, you can't fit into this box, you're not productive in society. And because we live in such a capitalist world, that if you can't produce the amount of money that, or you can't produce, not money, if you can't produce the amount of work that they want you to produce, then you are labeled as unfunctioning, or, you know, non-productive in society. And
And
like I said, oh, go ahead.
well, I was going to say, and it's the type of work,
Mm-hmm.
you
That's
know, the work
yes.
that does not challenge the system, the work that tells you just to do as you are told, not the work, not the creative work that these
Mm-hmm.
brilliant minds can come up with. So they don't
Yes.
hone in on what's right, or hone in on where the talent and their creativity and their expression
Mm-hmm.
lies. It's more honing in on, like you said, productivity. You didn't do this the right way, you didn't do this as you were told, under any conditions. You know what I'm saying? Because that's how we are taught to learn. It doesn't matter what type of day you are having, it doesn't matter what's going on in your environment, or it doesn't matter that you're hungry.
Yes, we don't consider those things. And in our society, when we have neurodivergent children, that, and you brought up the point, because I was going to bring up that the creativity, that we don't focus in on their intelligent base, that I look at them as so intellectual based. And I'm going to use my son for an example. Khalil, he is a superb athlete. This boy, literally, he's 7 years old, and he's performing at a third and fourth grade math level. And he literally taught himself most of the stuff, and he taught himself by watching sports. I know another little girl who is autistic, was nonverbal, but she can hear music, and the way she was communicating with people with music, and she can literally hear a sound and take that sound and recompose that exact sound that she just heard. I've seen another child who has her artistic skills and the way she can draw, where she can see an image. And I thought this was the most amazing thing. It's a student of mine. I met her, and I, you know, went over a lesson. I gave instructions to the class, and within 20 minutes, she handed me this photo, and she had took a sketch and drew a complete photo of me. With her, the whole time I was up there talking, she was sketching and drew that photo of me. And I'm like, I've seen these amazing gifts that you know our people can use in our society use, but we don't deem as those as productive. That if you're in the classroom and you're caught, you're doodling instead of paying attention, you get in trouble.
Right,
You
right,
can get in
right,
trouble for that.
right.
You know, if you want to run around and you want to play basketball, or if you're learning your class, like my son, when he learns, he moves. He gets up and he moves. He has trouble sitting still. And you may think he's not paying attention to you, but he can recite. You give him a math problem, he can recite it back to you in a couple seconds. Any type of math problem, algebra, you give it to him, he can figure it out. And you turn it to the sports way, he can figure it out. And I always say, like, we don't look at intelligence differently. Like, we label somebody as Albert Einstein, he's an intelligent person. He's a genius. He's a genius. And, we started to talk about his intelligent levels. But I always argue that people like him and LeBron James, or as much as I hate to say this person, I'm gonna say him anyway, Kanye West,
Yeah.
they're all on those same level as having intelligent bases, but they're different. They master different parts of the body. That somebody like LeBron James master the kinesthetics of the body, where he has a genius level, where he's able to move the body in ways that a normal person cannot do.